स्वामिन्नमस्ते नतलोकबन्धो कारुण्यसिन्धो पतितं भवाब्धौ मामुद्धरात्मीयकटाक्षदृष्ट्या ऋज्व्यातिकारुण्य सुधाभिवृष्ट्या स्वामिन्नमस्ते 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 स्वामिन्नमस्ते। ज्ञानस्वरूपं निजभावयुक्तम् आनन्दमानन्दकरं प्रसन्नं योगीन्द्रमीड्यं भवरोगवैद्यं श्रीमद्गुरुं नित्यमहं नमामि। श्रीमद्गुरुं नित्यमहं नमामि। नित्याय सत्याय चिदात्मकाय नव्याय भव्याय परात्पराय शुद्धाय बुद्धाय निरञ्जनाय नमोऽस्तु नित्यं गुरुशेखराय नमोऽस्तु नित्यं गुरुशेखराय नमोऽस्तु नित्यं गुरुशेखराय। जय गुरु, जय गुरु, जय गुरु, जय गुरु। So life in Guru Sannidhi. I am trying to talk on this topic. And as I told you yesterday, whatever comes to my mind, my whole life's experience, I'll try to share. And I feel that from the time a person comes in the association of a Mahatma, life in Guru Sannidhi starts. It's not that you have to stay with him at his feet, serving him. Just like yesterday I spoke to you about one shloka which Shankaracharya has written, composed in Viveka Chudamani, that three things are very rare and which comes in the life of any human being by grace of God. Manushyatvam, that is the human birth. Mumukshutvam, the yearning, burning desire for liberation, liberation from the shackles of mind and intelligence. And also, these two being there, the third very important and rare thing is Mahapurusha Samshrayaha. So those who have these in ample measure and they come in the association of any Mahatma or Mahapurusha, they are blessed. And right from that time, the life in Guru Sannidhi starts. Why do I say so? The life, our life, when we are children, from the time we become conscious that these are our parents, these are our siblings, here we stay, then we start going to school. Our life is in the Sannidhi of the parents, elders, siblings, then teachers, neighbors, friends and all that. So, in the association of all these people, we grew up. But the most blessed thing which can happen to any human being is the association of the Guru or Mahatma. And The life in Guru Sannidhi will start if we can give value to that association. Otherwise, it may be that we meet a Mahatma, we regularly listen to him, we regularly read his books, or sometimes we even ask him questions and he replies, we write to him. I'm not talking about that kind of Sannidhi. I'm talking about a Sannidhi which will make us grow as we have grown in the association of our parents and elders and all the people who have come in our lives. And this association, the Guru Sannidhi, should be considered to be the supreme in one's life. Because in all the association that we have, we grow up. Our parents, they give us a lot of values and virtues. They always tell us good things in life. They tell us that we have to be honest, truthful, we have to be helping others, and also we should study well, then get settled in life. This is what they can tell us, that be settled in life so that your life becomes comfortable, so that if you have a family, you can keep them comfortable also. You will be happy and peaceful. What they cannot tell us, or even our teachers in our schools and our, say, higher institutions, what they do not tell us is how we handle our mind when we are in difficult situations. We have not been taught by our elders or teachers how, when we are nervous, we are fearful, we are anxious, what should we do so that we do not feel depressed, we do not feel that we are drowning, we do not feel afraid. At most, when we tell our parents, say we have been telling our parents, we know that they also get anxious. If they see the children to be anxious and fearful, maybe some kind of situation, adversity has befallen, then parents also become anxious, they also become scared. So, to some extent, they can give us consolation, but not fully. So, in those Sannidhi, we can grow to certain extent, but to grow in a fullness where we will be unaffected in life, fearless in life, we have to be in the Sannidhi of the Guru. And again I repeat, it is not always the physical Sannidhi. So what is this Sannidhi? That is when you come to know somebody, you are in the association, you like him, you love him, you want to listen to him and you are listening to him, maybe reading whatever he has written. You must dwell in his words. What is he telling us? He is telling us constantly that your real nature is such, which is unaffected, which is fearless, it is eternal, it is imperishable, it has no decay, it cannot be moved. That is, the personality is very immovable personality. The real identity, the real nature, which we call I, which is deep inside, the inner presence, we can call it Atma, that is absolutely immovable. It cannot be changed. It is changeless. So he is constantly talking on that. And he'll be talking sometimes from this scripture, sometimes from that scripture, and trying to hammer into us this truth. And why is he hammering? Because whoever comes to him, any Mahatma, any Mahapurusha, any Sadguru, they will always want to relieve human beings from their sorrow and suffering, from their anxiety and fears. And he knows this is the way. If we can live in the knowledge of the self, then we will not be affected or fearful. Now, I think that all of us, you leave aside everything. We may look forward to leading a very comfortable life and live in, to some extent, in a peaceful and happy life. All of us want peace and happiness. And more than that, what we need is, and we want is fearlessness. Because fear grips us. Even when there are a lot of money, there is everything going on well. Children settled, you have bank balance, there is nothing to worry about. And nothing really goes wrong in one's life. Still, the situation will come when one will grow old. So the feeling of insecurity comes. Suppose I am laid up in bed. Suppose there is nobody to look after me. Suppose I have a lot of pain and suffering in the body. So fear is always there. There are beautiful slokas which our rishis have written, telling us and opening our eyes to the real nature of this life, that which says that you may have a house very beautifully decorated by lot of things, lot of furnitures, big house. You have a very beautiful wife who looks after the house also very well. You have very learned children who are well settled in life. And you are one who has fame, name, prestige, respected in the society. But if you do not know and understand that all these are perishables, these will not remain forever, then you are a fool. So, this is what our rishis have written in many of our scriptures. So, what the Gurus fails that this is what human beings are. They don't understand that the life, in this life itself, in this human body itself, we can look for our own real nature, which is absolutely unaffected, which is absolutely fearless. So he always tries to hammer this knowledge to the disciples, to the devotees who come. And he does all this because it's in the Viveka Chudamani, there is a sloka which says that he does this because his nature is like the spring wind, spring breeze. Like after, when the winter is there, how harsh is the winter? So we all look forward to spring. And as soon as the spring comes, all the trees which were completely become barren, no leaves were there, small leaves will start growing. There is festivity as if in the nature. So the spring breeze becomes festivity to the nature. Similarly, these Mahapurushas, the Mahatmas, they go around this world doing beneficial work to the society or the humankind and bring festivity in the minds of everybody, telling them that you are not the mortal body, you are the immortal soul. So his work is only that. He goes around, that is why we move around. We move around in spite of sometimes bodily discomfort, sometimes whatever happens, situations, still we always move around because all cannot come to us. Only when we go out, others who cannot come to us will have the opportunity to listen to these talks. But unfortunately, most of the people do not understand the value of these talks. And only there are very few who are really blessed. And they will be all the more blessed if they feel from the time they have heard somebody, some words of the scriptures, if they start feeling that now I am in the Guru Sannidhi. That is, I am being given such messages, such words, which if I dwell in them, I will be free of fear in this life. So, as I was telling you, I considered my life to be in Guru Sannidhi from the time I came to know of Baba. And when I came to know of Baba, as I was telling yesterday, that I was feeling this world is absolutely impermanent, no joy remains forever. And that is the time I came to know of Baba and wrote a letter to him. That this is the situation of my life. I was about 23 years old at that time. And Baba wrote back that I'm quite concerned with your whatever you have written. It is, unless one is fortunate, one does not have such feelings in the mind, especially at this age. And then I had written to him whether Diksha is necessary. So he wrote, yes, Diksha is necessary, because to learn everything we have to learn from a teacher. Even if the children in a family, the parents are teachers, they send their children to school. They don't tutor them at home, saying that we are teachers so we can teach our children. They will send the children to school. Why? Because the teachers who are teaching at school, they know how exactly to guide them, say from KG to class 1 to class 2, class 3, according to a syllabus. So Baba wrote that to learn any vidya, any knowledge, we must have a teacher. Similarly, for this supreme knowledge, which is the knowledge of the soul, we must have a teacher. And he is called the Guru. And what is this Guru? This Guru is, he is described as Shrotriya Brahmanishta. And he is somebody who has learned the scriptures. Not only that, he lives them. Learning the scripture means many are learning the scriptures. Everybody knows about the soul or the self. Everybody knows that soul is eternal and imperishable, changeless, etc., birthless, deathless. These definitions everybody know. It's not that. You live in the knowledge and then you act. Just like I was giving the example of being a mother. When you have a child, then you become the mother and act accordingly. Similarly, when we are a student, we start going to the school, we become a student. So we know that we have to study, we have to learn what is being taught in the class, we have to do homework, we have to sit for exams. If we just play around, then we are not students. So, the Shrotriya Brahmanishta Guru, he is not only well versed in the scriptures, he lives that. He never falls from that knowledge that I am the self or I am the Brahman. All his actions are revolving around that knowledge. He remains connected to the knowledge always. Tatvat aprachyuto bhavet. There is a beautiful sloka. All these slokas I heard from Swamiji first. It is from Mandukya Karika, Mandukya Upanishad. There are actually Mandukya Upanishad, I think there are 12 slokas. But there are commentaries on that. Those are called Karika. It says, Tattvam adhyatmikam drishtva, tattvam drishtva tu bahyataha. Tatvi bhutaha tada ramaha, tattvat aprachyuto bhavet. What is that? Tattvam adhyatmikam drishtva. That is understanding that I am the self. I am the imperishable, changeless self. My real nature is that, actually. And we first listen to it, read about it, repeatedly listen, repeatedly read, which many of you are doing. Repeatedly you are listening. You are interested to listen. When you listen, you are transported to that state at times. And Tattvam drishtva tu bahyataha. Also, what is the scripture say? The self is not only that I am the self, and it's not that everybody's self is different. Self is only one, the soul is only one, and the universal self is Brahman. That is, self is everywhere. It is everywhere. Just like if you take the example that this light is there, the microphone is working, the camera is working, the fan is working. Everywhere it is the electricity, but it's different, plural expressions or plural forms. But it's the same electricity is flowing. So it can be thought like that. The self is same everywhere, but they're different forms. Like each one is different in looks, different in their names, then where they stay, what are the qualifications, where they work. Everything is different. So, tattvam adhyatmikam drishtva, knowing that I am the self, tattvam drishtva tu bahyataha. And also, bahyam is outside. Inside, adhyatmikam is inside. Inside, understanding that I am the self. And bahyataham is outside. Outside, understanding that myself is the same self. So, not seeing the variety, seeing the plurality, seeing that substratum of oneness into everything. Tattvam drishtva tu bahyataha. That is, the plurality is not destroyed, but you are soaked in that oneness. Soaked in that oneness. Tatvibhutaha. Tatvibhutaha means you become the knowledge. Become the knowledge. Like the mother becomes the mother. She never falls from that motherhood. Tadaramaha. Tadaramaha means with that knowledge she rejoices. His rejoicing is only in the knowledge. So I again give the example of the mother. You become the mother, never fall from that motherhood feeling. And you rejoice in being the mother. Okay? And the fourth line is Tattvat aprachyuto bhavet. From that tattva, you never fall. You never fall from that. So, the Mahapurusha, the realized masters are like that. He never falls from the knowledge that I am Brahman or I am self. Which, till one has realized, one will fall from that. Because the listening is only listening. Unless you dwell in that thought, how does the mother become the mother forever? Because handling the child, thinking of the child, constantly being in the thought of the child, the mother becomes a mother. Suppose the mother was not like that. So, the gurus are Shrotriya Brahmanishtha, Akamahata. What is Brahmanishtha? Shrotriya, I said. Brahmanishtha is his nishtha. His steadfastness is in Brahman. That is, whatever he sees the self or Brahman. He understands. It is just like I talked about the electricity, and it is also said this mala. There is a thread which is in which all these are there. All the beads are there. All the beads are different. If you look at them individually, they are different. Different in shape a little bit. But what is keeping them together? It is the thread. So, Brahmanishtha, in this plurality, he finds his nishtha, his steadfastness in that alone, in Brahman. Akamahataha, he is not smitten by any desire. Shrotriyo Brahmanishtha Akamahato Yo Brahmavittamaha. And those who have known the Brahman or the self, he is one amongst them. He is one amongst them. Brahmanyuparata shanto nirindhana ivanalaha. Brahmani uparataha. And his mind, whatever he does, a realized person also will be doing a lot of activities. Some, they just remain in their ashram. They don't go out anywhere. Whoever comes, like our Baba, Swamiji's Gurudev, he remained absolutely away from public eye. If anybody came and asked him something, he would give replies. But still, for the body to live, one has to eat, one has to take bath, one has to take medicine, maybe if the mind is, if the body is sick. But he does all that, whether you are active, and some Mahapurushas, they are active. They go out to the society, spreading the knowledge, go from here to there to there, meet people, give peace to them, tell them various methods how they can become peaceful and they can get rid of anxieties and fear. And all that by knowing the self. So anyway, activities are there. But these activities, they do remaining steadily in the knowledge of the self. So Brahmani Uparataha, the mind may be interacting with, say our Swamiji. He is talking to so many people. He is doing, sometimes when the ashram, administrative work is there, that he will do. Sometimes villagers will come and talk to him. Sometimes workers will come. Sometimes devotees will come. Sometimes devotees come with spiritual questions. Sometimes devotees come with their family problems. So he's doing so many various things, but his mind is always on Brahman. He will never fall from that knowledge of Brahman and act otherwise. Brahmani Uparataha. So when such a thing happens, what happens? You remember, Shrotriyaha, Brahmanishtaha, Akamahataha. What is Akamahataha? Not smitten by desires. Brahmani Uparataha, Brahmavittamaha. He is one of the best of those who have known the Brahman. Then Brahmani Uparataha. Next is Shantaha. So naturally, his mind is quiet because he has no desire. His mind, wherever it goes, it sees Brahman. So even though in the surface there may be different people, different nature, different behavior, he tackles all of them, remaining in one plane of Brahman. So naturally, no agitation in the mind. Deep down. No, you may find him scolding somebody. You may find him when somebody is having some sorrow. He also may shed tears. So externally he will be behaving, but deep down he is not affected. Do you get it? I think all of us would like to be like that. It's not that when you become a realized person or you try to progress in that direction, you should become emotionless. Emotion should be there. And that is why the people who are spiritually elevated, they start feeling others' sorrow as one's sorrow. You understand? One will feel, suppose parents are there, if anything happens to their children, they will be very sorrowful. They may not feel like that when they hear about somebody else's child having similar fate or anything. But a realized person, hearing or seeing anybody's sorrow, will feel as if it has happened to me. So that is why, since mind is always in the same Brahman, and also the mind is not smitten by any desire, it becomes quiet. Desire makes the mind turbulent, tormented, afflicted, disturbed, agitated. So there is no desire. Whatever comes, he is ready to do. Whatever goes, goes. Whatever comes, you accept. He's like that. There is Ashtavakra Samhita, Swamiji will be taking one verse is there. Yada yat kartumayati tada tat kurute rijuhu. Shubham vapya shubham vapi tasya cheshta hi balavat. So it says that when somebody is in this pursuit of spirituality, what one should do? Yada yat kartumayati tada tat kurute rijuhu. That is, whatever comes, you do very naturally. Naturally, mark the word. We don't do it naturally. Whatever we don't like, we do it very grumblingly. We have to do, so we do. But many things we don't like to do. So, tada tat kurute rijuhu. Like whom? Like a child. Shubham vapya shubham vapi. Even if you like it or dislike it, whether it is auspicious or inauspicious, good or bad, you just, because it has come, take it up and do. Krishna also says, Mukta Sangas Samachara. You do your work, whatever work has come upon you. He's telling Arjuna. Arjuna has to fight. So Arjuna is not liking to do that. He has to kill so many people. So Krishna is saying that you have to do this. Do it well. Whatever work comes, do it well, excellently, perfectly, but without any sangha, without any clinging to it, to anything. So here also, this Ashtavakra is telling King Janaka that Shubham Vapi, Ashubham Vapi, Tasya Cheshtahi Balavat. Just like a child would be. Children, what do they? They are playing. Sometimes they are playing, jumping. Then sometimes they will, if they hear some noise, they will go run to the window and see, watch for some time. Then suddenly they may get frightened. They will come and sit on mother's lap, thinking that is the most secure place. And sometimes sleep off, like our Ridan. Whole day he has jumped here and there. Now he is sleeping. So, children, they don't differentiate between what is good, what is bad. And slowly they learn because parents guide them, teachers guide them. Then they come to know what is good, what is bad. Otherwise, is happily doing whatever they like. So, yadayat kartumayati tadatat kurute rijuhu shubham vapya shubham vapi tasya cheshtahi balavat. So, whatever work is to be done, we try to do it in a most natural manner. But we do our work with lot of desires. Desires means, what is desire actually? Desire is actually having some particular expectation that I want only this. I want this in my life. If this happens, then only I am happy. If this specificness goes, then one will not suffer. Then only, when the specificness goes, then we can behave like this child. Whatever comes, let it come. That is what the realized people do. Let it come. Whatever comes, it's okay. And whatever goes, let it go. So that is why they are Shanta. They are not agitated. They are not disturbed by anything. So, when mind is Shanta, any spiritual person, any spiritual realized master, they will try to give these qualities to the people who have come near them. No? The association is that. Okay, I finished this sloka. So, it says, Shrotriyo Brahmanishto Akamahataha Yo Brahmavittamaha Brahmanyuparataha Shantaha Nirindhana Ivanalaha. See, we have so beautiful examples are there. Shantaha means quiet. And quiet like what? Nirindhana Ivanalaha. Anala means fire. And just like fire, Nirindhana means without fuel. When fire doesn't have fuel, what will happen? It will die down. It will get extinguished. So while the fire is blazing, it has so many flames going here and there. There will be, it's spreading. But suppose the fuel has gone, what will happen? It will die down completely. Get extinguished. It will not blaze anymore. Completely shanta, quiet. So this shantata of the mind of a realized person is like that he does not have any fuel of desire in his mind. Desire disturbs the mind, agitates the mind, brings ripples to the mind. So he doesn't have anything. Why? Because he understands that any specific expectation only brings suffering. So let whatever comes, do it well. If anything has gone, let it go. If you can try to hold on to it, let you hold on. But don't suffer. Don't suffer at all. Definitely we will try to keep the situation, say in the house or in the profession. You would not allow the situations to go haywire. You will try to keep situations in the house under control, everything. But in doing so, you should not become agitated. So, nirindhanaiva analaha. When the fuel of desire is not there, so whenever, suppose there is a situation in the house, volcanic situations, what should we do? Or in the profession, what should we do? Our attitude should be to set right the situation to the extent one is able to do, but knowing very well that I can become a success or it can be a failure. But try for it. It's not that you withdraw and go away. Try for it. And in trying, what will help? The sameness, loving everybody with the sameness. That is Brahmanishtata, Brahmani uparataha. Not falling from this fact that I should not get bitter about anybody. I should not think that that person is not good. I should not have any hatred or dislike for any person or any situation. Do you get it? What happens is that we forget all that. Although we are listening, reading, feeling very happy. But when the situation comes, we forget. We forget that we have to keep this kind of an attitude. And it is very, very simple. Only one thing to remember. We should not hate anybody. We should not dislike anybody. We are not saying this like, the soul is everywhere, self is everywhere. So we go and hug one tiger. We are not telling that. So we go and keep one snake here. No, not like that. So wherever you can, but you should not have any kind of dislike or hatred or bitterness for people. Our problem is that we become bitter, we have dislike, we do not want to accept other people's faults, we only blame, but we do not see that the same fault may be in me. Like, suppose we get irritated sometimes by somebody else's shortcomings or nature or behavior. How to get rid of that? Finding that this person has this kind of nature, this kind of behavior which I don't like. How to get rid of that dislike? We should always feel that just like I am getting irritated by this person, maybe my behavior is irritating somebody else. This is called Pratipaksha Bhavana. We must think like that. Then only we will get rid of. We feel that I am the perfect one and all others are bad. Or bad means having some defects. Okay, coming back to the shloka again. Nirindhanaiva nalaha. Ahetuka, the last line is very beautiful. Ahetuka daya sindhu bandhuranamatam satam. Who is he? I'm talking about whom? A realized master, a guru, a mahatma, a mahapurusha. Ahetuka daya sindhu. Ahetuka means unmotivated, without any reason. No hetu. There is no reason for it. Daya sindhu. He is an ocean of daya, ocean of compassion and mercy, without any motive, without any reason. We become compassionate to people who love us, who will appreciate us. We do an act of compassion or mercy, expecting a little bit of acknowledgement and praise. But he is ahetuka. It is his nature to do, show compassion, show mercy, and ahetuka daya sindhu bandhuranamatam satam. And whoever comes near him and touches his feet, just comes near him, he becomes his friend. This is the description of a guru, what Shankaracharya has written in Vivek Chudamani, beautifully. And then this is, I chant this sloka whenever I start my talks. Swamin namaste nataloka bandhu. So the disciple, not disciple actually, he will become a disciple. So a person, he starts feeling he's the blessed one actually, because he starts feeling this world is very strange. It's not full of only joy. It's full of happiness as well as unhappiness. And there are times when I feel as if I am getting drowned. I don't find any solution in front. Sometimes I feel that as if all the worldly affairs, it is scorching me like strong sun rays. Sometimes I feel the strong wind is blowing me away. And I don't know where to go. Who can give me a feeling of security in this life? Who can give me? And to tell the truth, that is why such people are blessed, because they start feeling that security is not in wealth. Security is not in name, fame, qualification. Nothing. You may have many people around you. You may have a lot of bank balance, but you cannot buy fearlessness. You cannot buy security by that. So that is why it is said, grace of God. By grace of God, you have started feeling like this. This thought has come. And that is why such people, they want to listen to such talks. What do our seers tell us? The seers have told us how to go beyond these feelings, how you can remain afloat. When we decided to come to Swamiji, we knew Swamiji for a long time, but when we thought of leaving everything and go and serve him in the ashram and wrote to him, Swamiji wrote a small letter. He wrote to us, "Come cheerfully. Now the burden is mine. From now on, we'll share the joys of life. We'll share the joys and sorrows of life together. I will teach you how to remain afloat in this world." And I think in the Guru Sannidhi of really remaining in the physical presence, this is what we have learned. How to remain afloat. It is like Swamiji many times gives this example of learning cycling. So when we start learning, of course I don't know how to cycle, but I have heard this example so many times. Swamiji says that when you learn, how many times we fall down, but still we get up and start learning again. And there comes a time when we can simply not hold the handles, free hand, and we are cycling. So, how is it possible? Only because we have tried, we have given effort, that is why we can do it. So, similarly, when we hear all these things, I feel the life in Guru Sannidhi will be when you keep on dwelling on what you hear and bringing it to your life. Every situation, good or bad, happy or unhappy, you feel the hand of those messages, how it has lifted you up, how you have fallen from that, how you can again try to go up. Then it becomes Guru Sannidhi. And for that, there is no necessity to be leaving everything like us we did. I don't think that when I first came to know Baba, as I wrote to you, as I was telling you, that Baba told, I think sometimes I go from here to there. Now I am remembering that Baba's that letter I did not finish. So Baba, I'll come to that again. So when I came to know Baba, I don't think that I knew that I'll become a sannyasin. When I was in the household, I didn't know that I will become a sannyasin. It has happened. So it's not necessary that one has to become a sannyasin, but it is definitely possible to remain in Guru Sannidhi by constantly dwelling on what the Guru has said and whether you are applying it to your life. Applying it to your life. All of you are from the household, and there is so much scope to apply it in the life. Constantly through interactions, we are constantly facing so many kinds of situations where we need to apply them. So I will go back to Baba's letter. So Baba said, I asked him whether Diksha is necessary, and he said that this is a supreme vidya, supreme knowledge. In any knowledge, everything to be learned is to be learned through a teacher. So this supreme knowledge has to be learned through a teacher, a guru. And he also said that when you consider somebody to be the guru, actually the ego is sublimated. Ego is sublimated. How? Because when we consider somebody to be superior than me, naturally we will listen to what he says, just like we do in the schools and colleges. What the teachers say, we take it that this is the way. Suppose the student says, no, teacher, whatever you have said, I will not listen to it. The student will not learn. So to tell about the Guru Sannidhi first, I thought this should be very, very clear that once you have stepped in this path, the first identity is you are a seeker. Now why are you liking to listen? Because your mind is seeking something. You are not happy with the usual things that you hear, usual things that you listen to, or usual things that every human being go through. And there may be some kind of quest. Even if there is no quest, there is a feeling of unfulfillment. That is, you feel that there should be something by which I'll feel very contented. That is not there. So, that is why we start listening and we start rejoicing in this listening, or rejoicing in the studies, rejoicing in reading something spiritual. And as we go forward, we find that we have been doing, but why the mind is still not becoming fulfilled? That should come, Mostly what happens is that one becomes, after some time, when the mind starts growing a little bit of progress is there, we find that, yes, I'm not getting so much agitated as I used to be earlier. I'm quite poised now. I'm not getting very depressed or very elated by things. I'm accepting people. So some good qualities I'm getting. And that brings in a complacency in the mind. For any seeker to remain progressing, again I would say that Guru Sannidhi thing should be there. That is, one must constantly introspect. One should always assess one's progress and see where one is. Things which you have heard, whether you are applying it to your life or not, I think my throat is going to be giving me trouble today. So, I have a lot of problem with my throat. Some days, no voice will come in the morning. Then slowly voice comes. So once somebody told me that, oh, you used to chant so well. We always feel so nice hearing your chants. What has happened to your voice? And she was saying that she is feeling very sorry. So I said, I said that from the time the voice is giving me trouble, I have also been thinking that I have no control over my voice. The chantings sometimes will be okay, sometimes not. So, and I really like chanting a lot, singing a lot. So I remember one song, Tagore's song. It says in Bengali, আমার মুখের কথা তোমার নাম দিয়ে ধুয়ে, আমার নীরবতায় তোমার নামটি রাখো থুয়ে. It says, আমার মুখের কথা তোমার নাম দিয়ে দাও ধুয়ে. When I speak my words, let it be drenched with your name, O Lord. আমার নীরবতায় তোমার নামটি রাখো থুয়ে. And when I'm not able to speak in my silence, let that also be filled with your name. How beautiful. So, everywhere the self is. When we can take it like this, then the greatest of adversities one will be able to accept. In this also, it is the self, extension of the self. In that also, it is the extension of the self. There is nothing but the self. But what happens is that because we do not dwell in this thought, we dwell when we hear. But when we go back, there is so much time with us when we can dwell. Say when we are taking bath, who is there to disturb us at that time? We can take a stock of our everyday happenings and think, did at this time my mind think about that everything is self? No, I got hurt. I disliked the person or I liked the person. Why did I not think in a equanimous manner? Why did my mind think of somebody with fault, with blame, or deprivation, that I was not acknowledged, that I was not appreciated? So, there are many times when we can actually dwell, not dwell saying Brahman, 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 self, 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 but what? Introspect. Introspect whatever we are hearing. See, Swamiji is taking so many shlokas, beautiful shlokas. When we hear, we just feel that we have got transported to those states. But are we to stop only there? It's true that we are all active. Like you are all from household, we are from ashram, but we are also absolutely active. And all our activities are not in meditation. We are having to do a lot of things which are maybe 100 or 200 times a householder will do household things. Say Guru Purnima is coming. Just before we came, Swamiji's birthday was there. All that we arranged and prepared, it's not that we all sat in meditation. We had to, block the cooks. We had to see who all are coming, whether the guest houses were okay, all right, whether the grasses have been cut, whether the groceries have been bought, how many people to be invited, how are we going to feed them. So it's a huge affair. Now the Guru Purnima retreat is coming. Already it's going on. Every day so much of preparation through email and WhatsApp is going on. So in all these activities, I think we can always remember that we are doing these activities and assess ourselves whether through these activities we are growing or not, whether through these activities we are becoming purer, or through these activities we are becoming more and more freer, or are we bound that I have to do this only or that only, finding fault in others? What are we really wanting to do? So this Brahmanishtha through activities, just like we are doing in all that, we are not meditating and doing. Through activities only, and then taking stock of ourselves, that the qualities that a seeker or a devotee should have I conformed to that or have I fallen from that? Like our Hasini has given me 2 questions. I think I was very happy to have her questions. I said that I'll reply them. Yesterday I said that a seeker should know what are the qualities a seeker should have. And actual sadhana is to imbibe those qualities. A devotee must know what are the qualities God would like to see in a devotee. A guru or a Mahapurusha, what are the qualities he would like to see in the people to whom he is talking? So, what are these qualities? In Bhagavad Gita, in the 12th chapter, the first quality is of a devotee, Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. That don't have any ill feeling towards anybody, any creature. That's enough. We all get 0 in that. All get 0 in that. So these are the qualities. Actually, I feel that this, since the topic is given, so I'm telling the name, but to be in spirituality, it is always to remember that I am a seeker and I have to grow these qualities. Meditation and sadhana, meditation and sadhana is one part of it. Second part is to be deserving that meditation. How will you have a proper meditation unless your mind is quiet? And how will the mind be quiet? When the mind is pure, mind is restful, mind has no disturbing factor. So that is why a realized person is said to have shantata, nirindhana ivanalaha. So I think that is what one must try to do. I feel that most of the devotees, I find that giving that supreme place of this spiritual life, people fail to do. The supreme position is not given. And don't think that to give a supreme position, you have to leave many things. No. Mentally you must give. Mentally give a supreme place. And what is the supreme place? Growing in the spiritual qualities. What are the spiritual qualities? How can you remain unaffected? How can you have these qualities which the Bhagavad Gita or other books they are saying? And in Prabhat Rashmi, Swamiji says, to be pure, see, how will the mind remain quiet and undisturbed? Not to have desires, not to have expectations. Don't think that you will be, how can we live without expectation? How can we live without desire? Because we have to earn, we have to keep the family in comfort, we have to buy things and eat, cook and eat. All those things have to be done. Those are not in the desires. It doesn't fall in desire. When we are not satisfied by what we have and our life is quite okay, but constantly we want something more, something more, something more, even though it is not necessary. And more than that, when we have very specific expectations, unless I can buy that kind of a car, I will not be happy. Unless I have this kind of a house, I will not be happy. Unless my son gets into this stream of education, I will not be happy. Those are the things which agitates a person. So this kind of desire, we must try to eliminate. And by which? By what? And if we go on reading, we will find it is that samatva, nirdvandvatva, that we consider, whatever comes, whether it is that life will bring to us the pairs of opposites, success and failure, profit and loss, good and bad, health and ill health, wealth and poverty, everything will come in. So we should understand that anything can come my way. Whatever comes, I try to accept it and not grumble. Then only the mind will become poised. And our real nature is the self. I am the self. I am the Atma, which is changeless, which is imperishable, which is unaffected. And also, when the mind is absolutely calm, then only that self gets revealed. The self is there. I am the self. Whether we know it or not know it, it is the self. And just like, say, a mirror is very well polished, very well cleaned, very well, the mirror surface, backside is polished very well, and the front is cleaned very well. We can see our face so good, so well. But suppose the polish has gone, the glass is dirty, then we will not be able to see. Similarly, when the mind has the dross of expectation and desire, possessiveness and ego, these three are the impurities of the mind. The self does not get revealed. Though I am that, I do not understand that. You get it? I am that only. I am the self only. But because the mind is constantly having ripples, we are not able to understand, and that is why we fall from that knowledge. Why is it that everybody feels that when we go from here and we get into the worldly life, we fall from the knowledge? It's only because of not training the mind to remain in that knowledge. I would say it like that. Not training the mind. We have trained our mind to do what? Allowing the senses to go everywhere. We have not trained our mind so far. Here so many of you are there, each having different age. And till this age, we have not trained. So how do we expect that suddenly when we hear something, even now if we do not try to train our mind to remain constantly or mostly, constantly may be a little difficult, mostly in the thoughts of this knowledge, that is, remain connected with the knowledge, then we will fall. So it is a practice. It is a practice. And that is what Baba had written, that when one must have a teacher. What do the teachers do in the school level? They'll give you classwork. They will make you do homework. That is, they are making us practice. They will first let us count 2 plus 3, 5, in whichever manner, giving some balls, giving so many items. We'll learn 2 plus 3, 5. After that, we'll know that it is 5. Do we have to count? Similarly, here, that as the practice makes us practice makes us have the knowledge, here also, to be constantly in the Brahmanishtha, or constantly dwelling in the thoughts of the self, or whatever we have heard from the Guru, we have to practice it. So, I think I will tell you, simply you must take a stock at night or whichever time you feel is suitable to you. Every day you must take a stock of yourself. Assess yourself, analyze yourself, that how much I thought about this, how much I have been good to others, did not have any blame in my mind, did not grumble doing work. What did I do? Was I able to be equal to success and failure, good and bad, likes and dislikes? I think it's a great adventure, very good adventure. If I look back, I feel that I was always inspired because I always wanted to be pure. Now I understand that I always wanted to be pure and bloom like a flower. Always made a very beautiful picture of myself in my mind from my very young days. Yeah, I mean, when I was in school. So my picture will be beautiful, having so many good qualities. Because my mother said that I should be a good daughter, a good girl. So then when I understood those are good qualities, I made a picture of mine with all the good things that I knew. And I will be very disappointed seeing that I am failing in most of them, getting irritated, getting fearful, getting sometimes jealous, quarreling. all those things and feel very helpless and call my God that why is it that I'm not becoming pure? But that since that yearning was there, and later, Swamiji, once I told Swamiji that I want to be like you, Swamiji. Then Swamiji said, okay. He laughed a lot. Then he said, what are the qualities you liked in me? So I said that your joy and your love for everybody, and the ananda that you radiate. So Swamiji laughed a lot and said that whatever quality you want, love the quality and the quality will be yours. Love purity, purity will be yours. I think that is what. But you know what I say? Why I said that Guru Sannidhi, life in Guru Sannidhi, whatever Swamiji has said, whatever Baba had said before that, I simply did it. Simply did it. Tried to do it. It's not that I was successful right in one go. Like, I was quite young, so we used to go to Purnashram. At that time, Baba was in his body. So I was quite, I won't say I was very fearful. Like exams and all that, I was not at all fearful. But, sometimes elders will say, if you do this, this will happen. Or some superstitions. So I used to get very frightened by that. I would not like to believe in them, but since elders are saying, so I once asked Baba, I get very afraid when I hear these kind of things. What is to be done? And told Baba that sometimes fear comes to me, sometimes I feel irritated very quickly or react very quickly. So Baba used to talk very little, not like our Swamiji. Swamiji likes to talk a lot. So Baba said, okay, whatever you don't like, ask them to go from your mind. You should not dislike those traits also. Tell them in a very friendly manner, that's enough. Now you can leave me. And I really did that. Whenever any such trait would come which I don't like, I would tell them, enough, you go now. So I'm saying that, I'm telling you, what does this Guru Sannidhi mean? Whatever you are doing, the mind is filled with the Guru's thoughts. That he is there enveloping you. He is watching everything that you are doing. We feel what we will not do in front of the Guru, we should not be doing elsewhere. That is also true. Okay. Sampurnam Jagadevanandanavanam Sarvepi Kalpadrumaha Gangam Vari Samasta Vari Nivaha Punya Samasta Kriyaha Vacha Prakrita Samskrita Shruti Shiro Varanasi Medini Sarvavasthitirasya Vastu Vishaya Drishti Parabrahmani Sarvavasthitirasya Vastu Vishaya Drishti Parabrahmani. Jai Guru, Jai Guru, Jai Guru.